Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Robb Evans, and I'm your weight loss coach, health strategist, and internationally published author, helping take you from where you are right now to where it is that you want to be. And I'm so incredibly excited to bring our special guest today. He is a serial entrepreneur. He is an international speaker, a real estate investor, a real estate coach, and one of the most excited and inspirational people I think you'll ever meet. So please welcome Paulie Kazanovsky.
Yes, it's so good to be here. I see you got the theme music. It's getting my juices flowing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Sweet.
Thanks, buddy. Good to be here.
Thanks so much, Paulie. So it's early Saturday morning over there. It's late at night here in Australia. So you're in Nashville.
Yes.
Is that right?
Country music.
Yes.
Music City.
So tell me, you come from Canada, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in Montreal, right in the inner city, like Point St. Charles is where I come from. It was a very tough, humble beginnings, blue collar, a lot of Irish immigrants in that area, a lot of African-American, Haiti, people from Haiti, Haitians, when I was growing up. So it's just a humble beginning, but, I wouldn't change it for anything because, sometimes those humble beginnings give you the strength and the wherewithal to be a better person in life sometimes,
Yeah, absolutely. And so today I wanted to dig into some of your experiences so that we can help those that are listening to the show learn from you. I mean, for probably 32 years now, I've been studying success and just kind of become obsessed by it. And because there's common traits that lead through everybody, aren't there? So the theme music, Rocky, I wanted to start there if we could. So I know that you used to do a bit of boxing. So do you mind sharing a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, it's kind of funny how I became a boxer. In my local gym in the area, there was a place called the Shamrock Boxing Gym. And when I was 9 years old, I was getting picked on by these three brothers that lived across the alley from me. Yeah. And my mom, of all people, you would think it's your dad, your uncle, your grandfather, somebody, another man. But my mom said, that's it, no more. And I'm not going to have my son not be able to protect himself. And that was the day where she just got my gym clothes and said, let's go. And, she brought me to the gym, and there was a man that was running the program there for the boys. And his name was Davy Hilton Sr. And the Hilton brothers, there was 5 Hilton brothers, and they were all boxers. And they took me in as one of the brothers. And I never looked back from there. I found my passion. I found my discipline. I found something that took me away from the drugs and the alcohol in my inner city streets. And it gave me something to look forward to. It gave me something to strive for. And I became a highly decorated amateur fighter. And then I moved to California, and I was a pro fighter, and then I became a kickboxer. So it all came from there. But what it really did for me is it gave me the discipline, and it kept me out of trouble, kept me off the streets.
What? So you said that was 9 when your mom first took you?
Yeah, I was 9 years old. I was always a tough kid prior to that, believe it or not. But I mean, when you're fighting 3 brothers and 2 of them were older than me, it was a little tough for me to beat them up. But after I got the training and all that, and I could honestly say this for the listeners, I didn't do boxing to be a tough guy. I did boxing to protect myself because, especially being a boy growing up in those humble beginnings, I think a lot of people succumb to peer pressure. Yeah. They feel like, if someone could bully them a little, they would do something they didn't want to. And I remember growing up, I was so fortunate that my mom did that to me, and she would make me go too. But then I found this love for that sport that no one ever had to make me practice or run or show up at the gym every day. I just fell in love with the sport, and I became a boxing historian where I learned so much about like the likes of Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and Lewis and Marciano and all the guys that paved the way, you know. And so I studied their styles, and
Yes.
it was just amazing what it did for my life and really for my business life, because it gave me the true discipline
Yes.
and the true confidence. And I think that's what a lot of kids are missing in their schools. And that's why they'll try drugs or alcohol or drinking because their friends are doing it. And me, when my friends would introduce that to me growing up, I would say, I don't do that shit. That's what I would say. I don't do that shit.
Yeah.
And they didn't push it upon because they knew I'd beat them up or something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The boxing, like, it's such a brutal sport because the objective is to, hit somebody in the face or kick them with kickboxing and so forth. And you can't do a sport like that without expecting to receive that punishment yourself.
Yeah.
But you said you really loved it. What was it about the sport? Was it the discipline of the training and everything?
It is a brutal sport. It is. And you're absolutely right. But there's a love for the brutality sometimes. I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but it's not. It's such an art and the technique that people don't know. They just see the punches and the movement, but there's so much technique to it. And although it's brutal, after the fight is done, there's something that happens in a ring between two boys or two men as I got older and become a man. Yeah. There's a respect and a love that happens between two pugilists in a ring. And you have no idea, like anybody listening out there, sometimes after the fight, you see the athletes hugging each other and talking. I could honestly tell you most of those conversations is, what a great fight. I love you, bro. I love you, man. You gave me so much of your heart and soul. And that's what's being talked. It's not anger. After you get done with the fight, there's a humbleness to it. There's a respect to it. And that's what I loved about it, you know, and it makes you strong. It makes you strong. It makes you focused. I mean, think about having to run every day. And back in Montreal, it was in the middle of the winter. Sometimes there was blizzards, and we still had to go and run outside. And that built mental toughness that I took into my life. Yeah. And there's a sense of loyalty to almost yourself. Yeah. Because, you know, if you're not putting in the time and the work, the other guy is, you can get seriously hurt in that gym, in that boxing fight, or even in the gym sparring other people. So it drove me to be a lot better as an athlete, you know? Yeah,
cool. Before we get into the business stuff, I did want to talk to you about this, and that is because this has a big impact on your mindset. And I guess, so when you lose a fight, it shows up probably more so in boxing than say, I don't know, you miss touching the wall in swimming by 1/100th of a second, or you missed 100 meters, you don't end up potentially being in hospital at the end of it. And I'm just interested. I don't know whether you've heard of an Australian fighter called Jeff Horn.
Yeah, I know. I've heard
so he just fought a couple of days ago. Yeah, against Costa Zoo's son. Now, I had the opportunity to see Jeff on a kind of like an interview like this. It was being done by some other people. I had a chance to ask him a couple of questions. And when I saw the pose down photo of the two of them, you know, like this at the press conference, I thought, man, this guy is much more muscular than Jeff. He's taller than Jeff, so he must have a longer reach and everything. Anyway, because it was on pay TV, I don't have pay TV. I didn't see the fight, but he was absolutely pummeled, like Jeff Horn. He was absolutely pummeled. And of course, you hear so much talk beforehand, like, you know, trash talking the other person and stuff. And Jeff's he doesn't seem like a boxer at all. He's so quiet and everything. But I'm just wondering of the impact that has on, you know, all the training that goes into it, the impact that it has on your ego, but then how you then use that to go to that next level?
Man, it's definitely it's a tough sport. And when you lose, man, it's devastating. I mean, like a lot of people look at fighters and boxers or whatever art they're doing, and they think of them as really tough and they could take anything. I could tell you, man, my first loss and my first loss in the pros, I cried. I mean, I did. I cried for hours. I was like emotionally hurt. And I think, people say, why are you like, a lot of boxers act macho, but the truth of the matter is when you're standing back there in the back of the room getting ready and it's fight time, there's this fear that's in your body like you wouldn't believe. It's this adrenaline fear, and you're shaking and you're afraid, but you go because like you're a warrior, you've built your mindset to go. But when you lose, I think the fear is like, I don't want to get knocked out in front of people.
Yes.
Don't want to lose in front of people. And I think in life, we don't ever want to lose. We don't want to lose in business. We don't want to lose just with our friendships, our family, or whatever. So I think boxing has a lot to do with life. And when you lose, man, I promise you, it's devastating. It's embarrassing. You let your team down. You let your trainer down, and you just let yourself down. And it's emotionally hard to come back from that.
Do you think it makes you work harder next time?
Yeah, I mean, it does make you work harder, but you start doubting too, especially when you get knocked out. You're like, oh my God, I don't want that again. And people think it hurts when you get knocked down or you stop in the body. The body punches are a lot worse than the head punches. I'll tell you that. When you go to the body, it hurts, and it takes the fight out of you. It takes the drive out of you to win. Yeah. And sometimes life does that too, and you keep fighting through that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jeff Horn, like he's a good fighter. He really is a good fighter, but as good as you are, you could start this sport young. You could be amazing. You could go there every day. You could do all the proper things, but there's always somebody you will find that's a little bit better than you.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about, so obviously you're very successful in real estate. Your first deal, and then, how you went from, that very first one to the next, and then, what you do now. I'm really curious as to, I suppose, what got you started first, but then when you were ready to make that big step and say, well, this is no longer a hobby. If it was ever, like a hobby, if you were dabbling to start with, and now it's like, this is what I do.
Well, believe it or not, my story is a little bit different than most people. Most people have coaching, or they have somebody they knew in the business, maybe a uncle or aunt or a father or somebody in the business. For me, I actually read a book. I read a $19 book, and I didn't know a lot from the book, but I knew enough how to evaluate the deal, and I just went for it. Almost like boxing, sometimes you just go out there and you see what falls on the table, so to speak, right? You put your chips out there and see falls. And I started very small. My first deal, it was $47,000 American. It was just a regular like townhouse.
Yeah.
And it was a 2-bedroom, 1.5 townhouse. We came in there, we bought it for really inexpensive. We put $30,000 into it to fix it up, and we sold it for $129,000. Now, I didn't make a plethora of money, but when I looked at the check, when I got it, when I sold the house, it excited me. And I said, if I can do this to one house, I can then do this to any house that comes my way. I have to gut my way through of taking this ugly duckling sort of house that wasn't a beautiful pearl and shine it up and make it a pearl. And so I I started from one house to 7 months later, I was doing 16 houses at the same time. So I had to go and raise money. I had to go and find deals. I had to build relationships. And I kind of forced myself to do it, almost like the boxing days. You have a date to fight. You force yourself to go. As afraid as we are as fighters, I was afraid in business too, but I forced myself to do it. And somehow, some way, I came out. And I ended up becoming pretty successful in it. Then I got a coach about 9.5 years ago, JT Fox, which we both know. And it changed the way I thought. Like every good fighter, every good business person, every good entrepreneur needs a good coach. And once I got the good coach, I was able to really hone in and become a better entrepreneur, better business guy. And I started knowing my numbers. I started slowing down the pace of the game and understanding my numbers, understanding who to use, not to do working in my business, but I started working on my business, and I started hiring project managers and other people to help me so that I could neutralize and stabilize my business.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. So you basically flip houses. That's yeah. So the decision to like flip them rather than say buy them, rent them, and so forth. Did you?
Well, I do
both.
Yeah, I do both. I also build. I build custom homes. I'm building 40 houses right now, like patio style houses where like. They're 1,800 square feet. That's what we do here in America. And they're just like a little subdivision. And they're typically like elderly people want to downsize to them if they had a big house. Yes. And so we're building 40 of them. And then I'm flipping houses. I do apartment blocks now, like apartment buildings. Okay. So, I started with flipping houses, just small, like I said, $47,000 house, and I flipped all the way up to a $4 million house in Chicago area. Yeah, so, wow. You learn and you get better and you create, you build relationships, and you kind of grow as time goes on. It's kind of like the fighting days. I didn't fight the best fighter when I first started fighting, and I had to grow. I had to learn my craft. Yes. And then I got better and better.
Yes. Is there a particular, is there something that you're particularly looking for when you look at a deal? Like, is it a particular type of house, or is it just the characteristics about, like, we can put in 30,000 and we can get out 80 kind of thing? Or?
Yeah. Well, the thing is about numbers, and I have to know what it can sell for. That's what we call after repair value. So what can I sell it for? And then there's a mathematical formula that we use. And so we'll buy that, let's say it's 300,000. We could sell it for, I would have to buy it at 70% of 300,000, which would be around 210,000 minus whatever the budget is to create this beautiful palette, like a beautiful house. Yeah. And then that would be the maximum allowable offer that I would give. And so that's kind of what we look for. We have to really put in a lot of offers. It's not just here we found this ugly house or a foreclosed house or someone wanting to get rid of a soiled house. We have to put in an abundance of offers. And then once those offers are out there, we wait and see who's willing to work with our formula and our numbers. Yes. And the ones that are able to work with us and are wanting to work with us, then we'll buy them. And of course, there's a lot of houses we won't buy, like on busy streets or in a flood zone or in a bad, really bad area where, you can't sell the house no matter how beautiful you make it. So there's a formula and there's a way to analyze them. But once you get them, you have to have a good team. It's not just about me. I think just like anything we talked about, boxing, it wasn't me that won the fight only. Yes, I'm the only one in the ring, but there's a team behind you. There's training and so on. And that's the way it is in this business too. You have to have good painters, good contractors, good back office people to keep up with all the paperwork and make sure you know what's going in your project. So it's a business, and it's not easy.
No.
I think nothing in life is easy. I mean, look, you know.
I think you make it look easy, which I guess is the gift that you have through the years of experience. And
it's my people, it's my team. It's not just me. I'm a type of guy, like, I'm never swole my head. Even when I was a kid and I won, I didn't talk. You know, I wasn't a talker. Like, I didn't go into a ring talking BS. You know, I always stayed humble. And it's not, when in business, you know, like, for me, it's not just about me. And I think growing that business and really pushing it and having a good nucleus of people and treating those people with respect and empowering them to help you grow your business is why I have the success. It's not just me. Now, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm the one who drives it. I'm the one who gets up early. I'm the one who builds the relationships. So I don't want to take myself. You got to have that intensity, but it is about the people around me. And I give them a lot of the praise, because you cannot do anything in life alone. And there is no such thing as a self-made millionaire. There's so many people that put so many golden nuggets in my psyche, so to speak, in my body and soul, that brought me here. Yes, I did a lot of the work, but I didn't do it alone.
Yeah. Tell me, what's your thought on, obviously you've got a lot of ability in what it is that you're doing, but what role do you think mindset plays? How important do you think the mindset is in driving your business?
I think mindset is probably, like, it's up there almost like 100%. It's number one. And I'll tell you why, because growing up poor, like, my mom grew up in communism, you know, and I grew up with a single mom. And so my mom's mindset was really scarcity. She was scared of everything. And, you know, I mean, rightly so. She grew up with, you know, her father used to beat her. They would wait in line for bread, all that kind of stuff. And she would tell us the stories, and we knew of the stories of the family, and the family would tell us stories too.
Yes.
But she put that in me, all these filters of like negativity. And I remember I just was this positive kid growing up in my neighborhood. And there was so much negativity around me. And I knew, like, my mindset was a little bit different. And I pulled myself away. I left my house at 15 years old. I was on my own at 15 because I knew there's no way I am going to do something with my life in a positive way. And then I started learning about mindset and how to feed that mindset with good, positive people like yourself, Rob, having good people around me and people like JT. And then I started reading, and I had trouble reading. I'm dyslexic. I wasn't very smart in school and all that, but I got through reading some of the philosophies of these great mindsets out there. And I started realizing, like, man, I can do it. I can be something. And, you know, I don't think people really doubted me in my neighborhood, to be honest, because they looked at me as different. And even though my mom always used to say, that's for the rich people, don't talk about that, please keep it down. I told my mother, and I told the people around me, my friends and people in my neighborhood, I said, I'm going to be something. Yeah. And I left my neighborhood at 19 years old, and I went on a journey that had so many highs and so many lows, but I knew it was the right journey, and I knew I was going to make it. And it was all mindset, and it was just feeding that mindset and repositioning the way I thought about money. Because when you don't have money and you grow up in that neighborhood, people just, they almost, they almost shun money. They almost hate rich people or successful people. And I was opposite. I gravitated to them. I wanted to learn from them. And so I think by putting myself in a better environment, it helped my mindset. And that mindset was the number one reason why I got to where I am.
That's pretty amazing. My eldest daughter just turned 15, and the thought of her, having to go out and do it on her own is mind blowing. And
I know. I think back to Rob, and I'm like, how the hell did I even do that? I mean, I was 15. I mean, I wasn't a regular 15-year-old. I mean, I've been through a lot and growing up the way I did. But I mean, I have a 15-year-old too. And, he's a smart kid. He's a great guy and I love him, but I don't know if he could just go out there and make it. I think times were a little different. I was determined. I started working at 13 years old to help my mom pay the bills. So I had a pretty good little work ethic going early. So I think that's what saved me.
One of the things that I've noticed in my own life is there's probably been three things that I can think of where there've been really, really painful moments, like really, really tough ones. But if I hadn't have had some of those, well, one in particular, where I was bullied as a kid because you've met me, I'm a bit vertically challenged, and so I was always a little kid, and so I was an easy target at school. And then that continued on until it sort of stopped when I found a taller friend, the smart tip. But then one day in uni, so I'm 20, and this guy threatened to kill me, pushed me up against the wall, threatened to kill me because I laughed at, he said something stupid and I just laughed in class. And he did it in front of the teacher. He did it in front of my mates, in front of the school, like the whole class, and no one said anything. And I was too scared to do anything. He had been pushed up the table in my tummy and I'm back against the wall. And I felt humiliated from it. But if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be talking to you now, because I then decided that I needed to change my body. I thought, I'm sick of feeling like I'm not, big enough. I knew I couldn't get taller, but not big enough to have the confidence to stand up to somebody and say, hey, back off,
I love that story.
But I felt so humiliated. But it's funny how things present themselves. Within the next few days, I was looking through the local newspaper and there was an article about this guy that had put on 10 kilos in 10 weeks at this gym. And I said, that's going to be me. So I asked mum and dad to borrow the keys to the car, so I didn't have one. Drove out to the gym and I put on that 10 kilos in 10 weeks. But that's what started my journey. That was my boxing story. As soon as I walked in there, I was like, man, the guy was a bodybuilder and I didn't understand about steroids and everything at that age. I just looked at this guy and thought, wow, how do I get as big as you?
Yeah, I love it.
And I was just hooked from that moment on. But
you found your passion.
That's right. But it was
your passion. You found your voice.
It only happened because of that incredible pain. And I'm wondering if your success, because of, having to do it on your own from 15, from 9 being, bullied from the kids over the road and stuff, whether they were really just life's way of preparing you for being a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I think you hear the story is very common. You hear like most successful people in whatever they do, whether it's business or, you as an athlete and as a trainer and as a bodybuilder, they all have there's a little tinge of like some adversity. And I always say, like, the more adversity you go through and you keep pushing through, you're going to become a champion in life. Yeah. And, and that's what makes a champion is that hard, raw, adversity that you persevere through. And, I never turned to drugs. I never turned to alcohol. I've never even had alcohol. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't gamble. And, I could have done all of those and I could have had a really good crutch to tell people, hey, You know, I grew up the way I did. I left when I was 15, but I didn't because I knew better. I just knew better. And, you know, your story resonates with when I listen to your story. It's very similar because you were like, I'm not going to feel that way ever again.
Yeah.
And, it's so funny because I was obviously a tough kid growing up. In high school, I was a very tough kid. I never one time bullied anyone in my life.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I was opposite. I took care of the maybe the not so boisterous people, or I took care of the smart kids that were considered nerdy, for the lack of a better word. I took care of them, and because I wasn't insecure. I didn't have to be the toughest guy and all that, or I didn't have to hang out with the jocks. I hung out with everybody. I was everybody's friend. And I'm that way today. Yeah, I'm everybody's friend. Yeah. The amount of friends and the relationships I have are with such different, diverse people. Yeah. And I think that's where it all came from when I was a kid. You know, I wasn't going to bully people. I didn't walk around like a big tough guy. I remember when I was on the subway one time and these two African-American guys said, "Give me your jacket." And I looked them straight in the eye, and I was 15 years old. By this time, I was very strong, very muscular. I was shredded. I was a prolific boxer, amateur boxer. And I looked at them right in their face, and I said, "I'm the wrong guy, boys. I'm the wrong guy." I told them straight up. Yeah. I told them, I said, "I promise you, I am the wrong guy." Because I was, I grew up without a dad. I had some anger issues too, you know. And I said, "I am the wrong guy." And I promise you, they left.
Yeah.
They saw it in my eyes. I was ready to go. I would have fought them both, no problem. And I promise you, I wouldn't have lost. But when you have that kind of confidence and that you're not afraid, I wasn't afraid at all. I really wasn't, because I think that's how champions are built. It's the adversity. It's the want to be better. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So with obviously with COVID right now, I'll tell you what's going on here, because it's really the mental side of COVID is really having a big impact in my state here so I'm in Melbourne, Australia. And we've been locked down longer than anyone else in the world, and under the tightest restrictions of anyone else in the world as well. So we're heading up to 6 months. I think we just passed 6 months of lockdown. We're in a more severe lockdown now, which we're heading into the 5th week of this one. So we can go out to the shops once a day for only food, because all the retail shops are shut. We can go out for 1 hour of exercise. That's it. The rest of the time we have to be at home. And so, of course, I'm not allowed to work with people in my studio. I'm not allowed to work with them in a park either. I can only stream with them. Yeah. And obviously, people are working from home. We're homeschooling. Like if I showed you my desk, I'm sitting at my desk. My 2 daughters, they sit next to me while they're homeschooling, and it's like there's a lot of distraction going on, and it's just really taking its toll on people. I'm just curious, obviously you're in a different situation there with COVID over there. And I tell you, it's interesting, the way that the US is portrayed. Whenever I speak to somebody that's in, say, California or someone or New York, and they say, it's not as bad as you may think it is. But I'm just wondering, it's obviously would have presented you with challenges with your business. And I'm just wondering how you've coped with all of it.
I'll be honest, I didn't stop. I didn't listen to them. I just kept doing what I always do. Now we practice social distancing. We were precautious. We were very precautious, but I was like, I am not listening to these people telling me I can't work. And I have so many people that rely on me. Yeah. Now granted, I am an essential worker because of real estate and construction and all that. So they did allow us. It's different if I owned a restaurant, there was no way I would be able to open. So as bad as it was here, And as bad as they wanted to make everybody stay home, I didn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, I still, was very, very cautious of what was going on, but I just didn't stop because so many people rely on me. And I don't think that we locked down as severely as obviously you folks up there in Australia area and stuff like that. So, I just cope by just doing it. At first I stopped and then I was like, I started thinking about my people and their families. And I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. And until somebody tells me I can't, I'm not going to stop.
Have you found any opportunities that have come out of COVID that you've said, wow, these wouldn't have been there before?
Yeah, I've been coaching a lot more students through Zoom, kind of like what we're doing. So I was able to do a lot more coaching students that way, because typically before they would actually come, they would fly in to Nashville and I would coach them like one-on-one for a whole week.
Right.
And now it would obviously, because of JT, it wasn't me, but JT allowed me to coach some of the students that he filtered in that wanted to learn more about real estate. And so it enabled me to build more relationships over Zoom.
Yeah.
And we kind of changed the way we do business now too. Like a lot of the real estate agents and the buyers and all that, we would do walkthroughs, and the real estate agents would use this platform, Zoom or video calls. So we did adapt. Even having the workers, I would have them be at least 6 feet apart and wearing their mask. But, it was hard for me to have someone tell me I can't do something, because my whole life I've always done what everybody told me I can't do.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, I'm doing it. And I remember, I'll share this quick story. I remember with my first business, I started as a 19-year-old kid, and years into that business, I was living in California and we had a massive earthquake in Northridge. And people listening could even go back and Google and find out how bad it was. There was deaths and buildings collapsed. There was freeways that fell, highways fell on people and sandwiched them. And there was a lot of sadness in the air. But I remember the next day, I said, we're still working. Yeah. When everybody took off, I said, we're still working. But what happened is all my sales guys used, including me, I used the fact that there was this earthquake and sadness and all that. I used it as an excuse on why I didn't sell that day. And we went out there and we produced very, very little. We did 0 sales. Yeah. And I remember I was mad at myself that night when I got home. I was very, very angry at myself. And I said, I allowed other people and the circumstances to dictate what happened to me today. Yeah. And so it really fueled me for the next day when I went in, and I ended up doing 6 sales the next day, and I made like $1,300 cash that day. And, when I was young, that was a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah. And so then my other sales guys came in at the end of the day selling, and they all did 0s except for me. The only thing that changed was my mindset. Yeah. My mindset, I said, I'm going to go and I'm not going to talk about the earthquake with my clients. I'm not going to bring it up. I'm going to have the same passion, the same energy, the same pitch, the same, like stick-to-itiveness. When they said no, I was going to turn the sale around. And guess what? I sold out that day and I made $1,300. And that night when everybody came in and said, man, everybody said they didn't want to buy. They didn't want to buy because of the earthquake. And then they asked me what I did. And I showed them that I sold out, and I showed them what I made. And that changed their mindset. So the next day, on the 3rd day, everybody was almost back to normal. Yeah. And I found that was the first time in my life, really and truly, that I found out that, hey, man, Everything happens between your in between your ears. And I was never going to allow anybody to dictate what I was going to do. And I would always find a way to pivot, recondition the way I thought about a certain thing that happened, or a traumatic situation. And that's how I handled this COVID thing. And I'll be honest, there was a lot of people that probably were mad at me. I would post positive things on Facebook and Instagram. I would say I'm doing another house, and I did that, and I had some people reach out and be a little bit angry at me, and I don't think they understood what I was doing, which is fine. I wasn't mad at them. I just wanted to show people, like, hey, you determine your life. Now, granted, having said that, we weren't locked down. You know, the essential workers weren't locked down like the folks down under, you know, in Australia. So it's a little different. We had a little bit of leeway, but that little leeway allowed me to do what I just told you I did. Yeah. And I just kept pushing forward.
Yeah, that's such a great story. When it happened here, I was surprised within probably 2 weeks of being locked down here on Facebook. I'm seeing people saying, I'm going to come out fatter rather than fitter from, that was the catchphrase. I'm like, we're only just started and you're already giving up. You're already saying that. And I started having conversations with myself and with other people. Really weird, like all my parents and grandparents have all passed away now, but it got me thinking about, man, this is nothing compared to what World War I would have been like and what World War II would have been like, especially here in Australia, being so isolated. You're talking about rationing for food and all that kind of stuff. We don't know what harshness is. And I looked at the opportunity, and I looked at COVID and said, here is a great opportunity. There will probably be no other opportunity that comes along like this in my lifetime that really pushes Robb Evans to say, step up and rise above all this and really do something great, as opposed to, let me just sit back and wait for this to be over and hope that my clients stay and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted my kids to be able to, obviously they're 13 and 15, so they see things differently, but I want them to see what their dad did through this experience, so that they will remember that, well, I remember, dad was still pushing, he was still doing this, and he was still, I pivoted by, we just moved our sessions to streaming, and even that doesn't suit everybody. Those that do it are so grateful for the fact that we can still do it. And it all just came down to here. I just made the decision, whereas other people left the industry and said, no, this is just too hard.
And I watch you pivot too. And I've been watching you and, I think that's the strength of the mindset we talked about. And, when you have kids too, they watch what you do, and they watch you do what you did, and you pivoted, and look, and you didn't allow yourself to fall. Because I would probably say most people during COVID-19 will gain weight. Yeah. Most people will.
Absolutely.
But somebody that has opportunity to pivot and utilize this time to get in better shape, to be more healthy, to seek people like you who can help people in these circumstances be a better version of themselves. But you did it, and it just attests to kind of what we've been talking about here on this podcast. It's all what you want out of your life. You can take whatever road you want. I could have been a drug addict, alcoholic, and I could have used all of the excuses that I legitimately had and say that my life was bad, but I chose a different path, just like you chose different paths in your life. Yeah. And I think that's a real champion. That's a real champion.
And look, we still have so much challenge ahead, because we have, I think they're the equivalent of mayors over there. So you have mayors, we have premiers that look after the states. So our Premier is refusing at this stage to tell us how much longer until we shut down, till we start to reopen again. Within the next 2 weeks, they're going to announce it. So there's still a lot of uncertainty. We don't know whether we'll be still locked down like this for another 3 months, 6 months, 1 week, 2 weeks. We just don't know. And that really does people's heads in. It's like, well, I'm dangling this carrot in front of you. I'm not going to tell you when this is going to be over because we don't really know. The whole world's hanging on to this concept of let's get a vaccine. But we just don't know. And whatever goes on up here, we've got to just keep pushing on through to become a better version of ourselves. I wanted to talk to you about coaching. You mentioned that a couple of times now. How powerful has coaching been for you?
Coaching's everything, especially when you have the right coaching.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you do. It's like you coach people on how to be more fit, more healthy, what they're putting in their bodies. And without that blueprint, sometimes people are doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. When you have a really good coach, they give you that blueprint to collapse time. It's about collapsing time and just being more efficient with what you want out of your life. So I could honestly say, I always did business, like I was telling you. But once I got the top level coach like JT, it changed the way I thought, changed the way I communicated with my people. And really it changed the way I did business. Yeah. And it allowed me to grow a lot more quick and efficiently. So I think coaching is like everything, especially when you're an athlete. There is no way you can
do it by yourself.
The high level results without trainers and coaches and all that. Yeah. Because so many times being a fighter and a boxer and whatnot and martial arts and stuff, without my coach there, my mind shuts down. And although I'm a very disciplined guy, if I don't have my coach pushing me, a lot of times I won't do those extra 3 reps. I might just shut down before those extra 3 reps. But you, Rob, know that those last 3 reps or the last 1 or 2 reps, 4, I like the way you think, those last 4 reps get you to that. Putting people like yourself help people to become better themselves physically and mentally. It's almost impossible to do it just by yourself.
So there may be some people listening to this right now that haven't had a coach before. What was like the moment for you where you said, I'm going to get that coach. I need to get coaching?
Well, I remember it was about 9.5 years ago. I went to an event. I actually went to an event and I met JT for the first time. And he was up in the front of the room speaking. And I saw I saw someone that actually had the blueprint that I was looking for. And I could tell like it was very real with him. I could tell that, he might have puffed the sale a little bit, meaning, he probably puffed, but I could see the truth in his story. And I was like, I could use some of this guy's help to help me neutralize and stabilize my business. Yeah. Although I was doing business, I was just doing the same thing and I just could never break through. And I didn't have those nuts and bolts, so to speak, to put together so that I could have a better view of it. And it really reminded me of when I was an athlete. I was like, man, this guy is like not the nicest guy. And I used to think my trainer didn't like me.
Yeah.
But he loved me. Yeah. And I found that out when later in my career, when he stopped the fight that I didn't want him to stop. And he, for the first time in my whole career, and I knew him since I was a kid, and he stopped the fight and I said, I'm never going to talk to you ever again because you didn't let me go out on my shield. And he said, I love you. He goes, because I care about you. And I knew that I needed a coach at that moment. And I thought that JT had that same, that he would never just tell you he loves you. He would actually show you in the end by directing you in the right area.
Yeah.
So sometimes, Rob, I'm sure you might be hard on your clients because they're giving you excuses on why they're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But because you care about them and you love them, you push them to those 4 extra reps every time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, beautifully said. I wanted to ask you about relationships, and I'm conscious of our time, so we'll finish on this point.
No problem, man. I'm good.
Yeah, good on you. So with relationships, so COVID for me has been broken up into 2 things. So we had our first lockdown for effectively 3 to 4 months, and now we've been locked down for another couple. And in the first one, I thought, man, I've got this almost like a bucket of stuff that I've said, I really need to get to that one day kind of thing. I thought, okay, it's time to empty the bucket and let's just sort through this. And then I said at the end of that one, I said, gee, if we get locked down again, I want to work on this other bucket, which is what I'm working on now. And I'm really enjoying it because it's about relationships. And look, honestly, if this second wave hadn't come down, we may not be doing this now, because I wouldn't be thinking about how do I connect with, more successful people around the globe and have, really good conversations. And that also with my clients, like checking in with them and making sure, are you okay? And deepening that relationship and working with people that I know that they'll be clients for life now because of how we've connected. You mentioned relationships before. Tell me how important building relationships is, and how kind of what sort of percentage of time you spend on building relationships now in your business.
I would say 65 to 70% of my business is relationships, and I spend that much time building them. And I'm really good at building relationships. I think, we're all blessed with something from God, like that gives us. Some people are really good at paperwork, mathematics, reading. I was a relationship guy, even when I was a kid, and I think, in business, relationships is just imperative. It's imperative. And I build them really strong. Yeah. And the way I found that works for me anyway is I'm so authentic and honest with people. I'm not fake. I'm not a fake person. Like, I tell that the truth. I don't try to be someone I'm not. I don't use words that I can't spell and all those things. I am who I am. And I build those relationships by being open and honest and wear my heart on my sleeve, sort of thing. And I think people appreciate those type of relationships, and I'm very loyal and character driven. Yeah. And I think the more you attack relationship building with that kind of mindset and those kind of philosophies, your relationships will be deep rooted. Yes. And you don't leave anybody behind. And you, even though, like you said, COVID allowed you to deepen relationships, it's something that, like you said, sometimes you don't have time. You're running around and doing all this stuff, but you took this time to really deepen relationships. And just me and you having this conversation, doing this show for people to kind of learn and listen to for their enjoyment, maybe some educational stuff. It's important. And I think as humans, and we know more now than ever, how important it is to be with one another. We're not meant to be alone. No, we're meant to be together. Like, we're meant to not be locked down. And unfortunately, we've been locked down. And so this insatiable appetite to have these relationships. And now, thank God, we can, thank things like Zoom and video chats and phone, because we could still, no matter what, they can't stop us from talking with one another and building those relationships. So it's imperative.
Yeah. Look, one thing I see from you, Paulie, is like you're the same on stage, off stage. You're the same person. You're such a likable, genuine person. And you can tell that it really comes from your heart. And
Yeah.
you can see that, you can feel it, you can hear it through the passion in how you connect with people. And I think, like I said at the start about you being inspirational, you're a great example for me, and you inspire me to, bring out more passion when I am connecting with people, and making sure. Well, I think what COVID has done for me is made me realize that I need to build better relationships. I need to build deeper relationships and more of them, and not be scared, if you like, of the rejection of somebody who doesn't want to be your friend, somebody who doesn't want to connect with you, kind of thing. So I think,
Well, you're very likable. I remember the first time I ever met you, right there in the front of the stage. Remember that? And I said, you sound like Richard Branson. I told you, I said, you sound like Richard Branson. The way your tonality and the way you pronounce and the way you talk, even though Richard Branson is British and you're Australian,
yeah,
but just the demeanor.
yeah, I know what you mean.
I had met Richard Branson, and you had that very humble, very good personality, and I mean, it's so funny. I'm not just saying this. I've never met an Australian person that I didn't like. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Like, I've met so many Australians, and they're good people.
Yeah.
No one's perfect.
Yeah.
But they're just such good, energetic people and jovial. And I guess I love that in my life. I love I love positivity and all that. I'm sure there's good and bad everywhere, but like I've never met an Australian that I just felt like I don't want that guy around me. It's so funny.
Yeah, cool.
But that's the relationship building.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, I have a couple of questions that I always ask my guests, given what I do as so kind of closing. What does a typical day of, say, exercise and food eating for you look like? Not your best day or worst day, but typical sort of day.
I'm pretty disciplined on that. I do a lot of shakes, like a protein shake with almond milk, a banana protein shake. I eat that in the morning. I'll drink it in the morning. I train in the morning. I do a lot of elliptical work, a little strength and conditioning work with some resistant training. Try to keep what I have. So, I'm getting a little older, but I try to keep the muscularity and the strength
good on you.
that I have. And then I'll eat for lunch. I'll have like a salad with chicken or something. And then at night, my wife will cook a really nice, like healthy meal, salad, some more chicken. So I'm very, very disciplined that way. Yes. Yesterday, here comes my wife. Yesterday, she knows I had a little bit of ice cream too.
A little, tell the truth.
A lot.
Nice.
But do I have ice cream every day?
No.
Okay.
And do you still do any boxing, like any boxing training, like bag or ball or anything?
I have a gym in my house, and I get on the speed bag. I still do shadow boxing, skipping. I keep my reflexes are fairly fast and strong, and that's just kind of the way like I get in the zone. Even before I go out on stage, I'm in the back shadow boxing with my suit on. People have seen me. And so it's almost like it brings me back to, that like I know I'm going into a fight. Yeah. And sometimes when I'm going up on stage to speak to people, I want them to just get so much out of it that it's the way I kind of pump myself up,
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, actually, final question for you. What's the next big thing on the horizon for you?
Well, the next big thing, obviously, is just keep on building my business. We're buying a lot more apartment buildings now, so that we want that residual income coming in. And especially now with what happened with COVID, we start thinking like it'd be nicer to have a lot more money coming in where it's almost like what we call mailbox money, because we have renters and, people still have to pay their rent. Yeah. And so we're focusing a lot on that. That's the next bigger thing that we're focusing on. And then, of course, building more relationships, doing a lot more coaching for JT's organization. And hopefully I'm helping people grow their business and grow their life. Really, I'm not a jealous person. Like anybody who knows me knows, like I want to see success around me. Like when I see you're successful and I see you doing what you're doing, it brings joy to me. I get like, I just smile and laugh and I'm like, man, he's doing it. She's doing it. And that's my passion. Like when my students do well, and I have some students that are multimillionaires now that started with me where she was a waitress or he was working for a machine shop or something. And now they're making millions. And I am so excited for that and so blessed that I had a small part in their growth. And, you know, when I die, like we all are going to pass away. It's not going to be the money I made and the houses and the cars I have. It's those people that will go on and say, man, that guy, Paulie, he cared about me even when I didn't care about myself. You know, maybe I didn't believe in myself. He believed in me. And I think that's the bigger picture that I look at all the time. And it's genuine and people feel that. I'm not doing it for the money. Sometimes they'll pay me for coaching for like a half an hour or an hour coaching call. And I'm on the Zoom call with them for 2.5, 3 hours. And I'm getting down to the nuts and bolts of it. It's not like I'm not going, our time is up here. And I know you're that way too when you're training your people. You're like, okay, you know, I'm going to show you this. Take this home and do this at home. Here's another exercise. Here's a better nutrition plan. This is what works for me. You're not a clock kind of guy. You're a want to help kind of guy. And that's what you have to look for.
Well, Paulie, I want to thank you so much for today. It seems like we've been talking for over an hour now. That time has just gone by so quickly. But look, just so grateful for you giving up some of your morning this morning on a Saturday. It's been fantastic. Like I said, you've been such an inspiration for me. I can remember the first time I met you at Mega Success as well. I just had to, you know, find you and just shake your hand and get a photo with you. So thank you for sharing so much today. It's been so insightful. I'm sure so many people get a lot of information out of this. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for the connection. It's been a great opportunity to connect.
Thank you, Rob. And thanks for the people listening, your listeners. Go out there and get them. That's what I say.
Thanks, Paulie.
We'll see y'all later.
Alrighty, I have